out of the way!
It's burning!
Another minute, I would have lost my hand.
Yeah, but look what you did lose. Come on.
Athcoids, or more commonly known as Gelatinous Cubes, have been around since the very first Monster Manual. A Dungeons & Dragons original, and fan favorite, has been scrubbing clean dungeons of both refuse and ill-fortuned players alike. Gelatinous Cubes serve as both a vital part in a dungeon's ecosystem and a beginning encounter for low-level adventuring parties. In this Monster Spotlight, we will be taking a closer look at everything you need to know about the Gelatinous Cube, its lore, its biology, and its ecology. Let's open up the 2014 5e Monster Manual to build our foundation before we see how interesting Gelatinous Cubes really are. Gelatinous Cubes are, you guessed it, gelatin ooze shaped like a cube. What is interesting though is that they are transparent, making them look nigh invisible. Unless of course it has a full stomach. Inorganic matter and bones find themselves trapped, swirling around inside the cube until, well, nature takes its course. But hey, free armor if you don't mind the mental image. The lore for the Gelatinous Cube is going to be found in the general oozes information of the Monster Manual. Oozes thrive in the dark, shunning areas of bright light and extreme temperatures. They flow through the damp underground, feeding on any creature or object that can be dissolved, slinking along the ground, dripping from walls and ceilings, spreading across the edges of underground pools, and squeezing through cracks. The first warning an adventurer receives of an ooze's presence is often the searing pain of its acidic touch. Oozes are drawn to movement and warmth. Organic material nourishes them, and when prey is scarce, they feed on grime, fungus, and offal. Veteran explorers know that an immaculately clean passageway is a likely sign that an ooze lairs nearby. Slow death. An ooze kills its prey slowly. Some varieties, such as black puddings and gelatinous cubes, engulf creatures to prevent escape. The only upside of this torturous death is that a victim's comrades can come to the rescue before it is too late. Since not every ooze digests every type of substance, some have coins, metal gear, bones, and other debris suspended within their quivering bodies. A slain ooze can be a rich source of treasure for its killers. Unwitting servants. Although an ooze lacks the intelligence to ally itself with other creatures, others that understand an ooze's need to feed might lure it into a location where it can be of use to them. Clever monsters keep oozes around to defend passageways or consume refuse. Likewise, an ooze can be enticed into a pit trap where its captors feed it often enough to prevent it from coming after them. Crafty creatures place torches and flaming braziers in strategic areas to dissuade an ooze from leaving a particular tunnel or room. Spawn of Jublex. According to the Demonomicon of Igwilv and other sources, oozes are scattered fragments or offspring of the demon lord Jublex. Whether this is true or not, the Faceless Lord is one of the few beings that can control oozes and imbue them with a modicum of intelligence. Most of the time, oozes have no sense of tactics or self-preservation. They are direct and predictable, attacking and eating without cunning. Under the control of Jublex, they exhibit glimmers of sentience and malevolent intent. Ooze nature. An ooze doesn't require sleep. Taking a look at the monster sheet, the Gelatinous Cube is a large ooze that is unaligned due to its simplicity in design. High hit points with a low AC and speed. High strength and constitution, and that's about it. Definitely a great beginning monster with these stats, having a challenge rating of 2. The upside of not being able to think is that it is immune to all psychological conditions. Taking a look at the traits and abilities, Ooze Cube. The cube takes up its entire space. Other creatures can enter the space, but a creature that does so is subjected to the cube's engulf and has disadvantage on the saving throw. Creatures inside the cube can be seen but have total cover. A creature within 5 feet of the cube can take an action to pull a creature or object out of the cube. Doing so requires a successful DC 12 strength check, and the creature making the attempt takes 10 3d6 acid damage. The cube can hold only one large creature, or up to 4 medium or smaller creatures inside it at a time. Transparent. Even when the cube is in plain sight, it takes a successful DC 15 Wisdom Perception check to spot a cube that has neither moved nor attacked. A creature that tries to enter the cube space while unaware of the cube is surprised by the cube. I will mention here that the new 2025 Monster Manual adds in a table of what can be found floating around inside the Gelatinous Cube by rolling a d6. I think this is a nice addition, just remember it makes it more noticeable. Actions. Pseudopod is a melee weapon attack that does some pretty good acid damage for a low level. But Engulf is what we really want to take a look at. The cube moves up to its speed. While doing so, it can enter large or smaller creature spaces. Whenever the cube enters a creature space, the creature must make a DC 12 Dexterity saving throw. On a successful save, the creature can choose to be pushed 5 feet back or to the side of the cube. A creature that chooses not to be pushed suffers the consequences of a failed saving throw. On a failed save, the cube enters the creature's space, and the creature takes 10 3d6 acid damage and is engulfed. The engulfed creature can't breathe, is restrained, and takes 21 6d6 acid damage at the start of each of the cube's turns. When the cube moves, the engulfed creature moves with it. An engulfed creature can try to escape by taking an action to make a DC 12 strength check. On a success, the creature escapes and enters a space of its choice within 5 feet of the cube. This engulf ability is a classic, and what makes the Gelatinous Cube so great, and leads to some very fun interactions. Taking a look at the ecology and biology of a Gelatinous Cube. According to the Forgotten Realms wiki, Gelatinous cubes are roughly 10 to 15 feet, or 1.8 to 2.4 meters, by 10 to 15 feet, or 1.8 to 2.4 meters per side, and weigh 50,000 pounds, or 23,000 kilograms. That is a lot of weight. There is a possibility of Gelatinous cubes becoming even larger, however. If 2 of these cubes collide as they meander their way through a dungeon, they combine, forming a 10 by 10 by 20 foot cube worm that hits like an 8 HD monster. Now, if you are thinking like I was at the time I read that, what's to stop a Gelatinous cube from becoming an absolutely humongous cube that can party wipe? Well, it turns out that the cubes split on 2 conditions. 1, they run into a third cube and immediately split, or 2, they split after a period of 2 to 8 days. No one's going to stop you though, if you want to disregard those rules. The longest observed time a Gelatinous cube has lived is 12 winters long in the captivity of an imperial zoo of Amn. Speaking of life cycles, how do they breed? Gelatinous cubes reproduce asexually through 2 different processes: binary fission or budding. In binary fission, when the Gelatinous cube grows to a sufficient size, whatever that may be, it splits into 2 smaller cubes that go their separate ways. In budding, a small piece of the cube is separated out and deposited along the wayside on top of food. It is left to fend for itself, as parenting is beyond the capabilities of a Gelatinous cube. Baby cubelets grow to adults in a small amount of time. Gelatinous cubes are found in underground regions and dungeons. The more active the area, the more food there is to sustain it. It slides along the ground, picking up all sorts of debris, fungus, and other organisms, dead or alive, of which the gelatinous cube can sense up to 120-foot radius around itself. Let's go back to that brain power of the gelatinous cube, as this is very important. In the Dragon Magazine issue number 124, adventurer Haptooth says this, quote, "These great creatures glide noiselessly along, devoid of malicious intent indeed, devoid of any consciousness at all, but fully a menace to all who encounter them. Athcoids have no thoughts as we know them, but rather respond automatically and identically in all cases to certain stimuli. They cease to advance when they encounter a cold surface or object, then probe forward to seek a way past or around it. Athcoids are attracted to vibrations or warmth, but seem devoid of hearing. When flowing over or around objects, they seem quite fluid and mutable, but return always to a rectangular or rhomboidal form when their surroundings permit." End quote. When using gelatinous cubes, it's important to remember that they rely on the most basic of functions, hunting by vibrations and temperature. When interacting with players, it will only chase if it is stimulated to do so, and can easily be manipulated by the creativity of the players, like stated in the lore. There's some pretty cool ideas there. Of course, you are more than welcome to homebrew in a killer gelatinous cube with intelligence. That sounds pretty fun. It also says in the Dragon Magazine that gelatinous cubes can move through a gap as small as a foot. That is actually pretty terrifying. You think you have escaped, only to see it squeeze its way through a gap somewhere. Surprise! Let's talk about that iconic engulfing ability with the gelatinous cube. Haptooth goes on to say that gelatinous cubes secrete a gum-like substance that paralyzes prey. Once inside, digestive acids that are kept in elastic bubbles floating around the cube are brought into contact with the victim, slowly eating away at it until the party pulls its member out or is stripped to the bones. Anyone who manages to escape will have burns across the body that is gnarled and twisted like half-melted wax. If you want to incorporate it into your game, adventurer Haptooth is said to have created an antidote against the paralyzing substance that the gelatinous cubes expel that removes paralysis within 1 to 4 rounds after being swallowed. This cannot be used for other paralyzing forms and is only specific to the gelatinous cube. Alright, that's a wrap. Try not to over-ooze this monster too much. Yep, I'll just excuse myself.